pessoal, meu nome é Josephine Bourgois, eu sou diretora executiva do Projeto Paradiso. Obrigada pela sua presença aqui para essa conversa com o pessoal do filme independent. Eu vou passar para o inglês, eu só queria dar as boas-vindas iniciais em português. So, we are very happy to be starting this conversation, hosting this conversation from Projeto Paradiso with our friends at Film Independent. So I will be speaking with Dea Vazquez. Thank you, Dea, for your time and your presence. She's the Associate Director of the Fiction Programs at Film Independent, and she will be joined by, is with Ashley Flores. They're actually in the same room from what I understand, even though it doesn't look like it, who's an associate at Fiction Lab at Film Independent. Dea will cover the basis and tell us everything about the Screenwriters Lab, which is part of the artist development programs at Film Independent. And from what I saw, you've been running the artist development program for 30 years at Film Independent, so that's pretty amazing. A lot of experience, and congrats to have such a long-lasting program is amazing, and especially supporting filmmakers. We have many filmmakers in this room. Some of them we know because they are already members of our talent network at Paradiso. So welcome to everybody, and a special hi to those we already know, and looking forward to know the others also better. It's the first time we're doing this. We haven't had this fellowship for a potential selected candidate at Film Independent. We do not have a slot guaranteed, of course. It would be too hard. But we're very happy that if a Brazilian makes it, we will offer a fellowship so that they can make the most out of their participation in the lab. So now we will hear all about this amazing lab. And so I give you the floor, Dea. And again, thanks to Dea and thanks, Ashley, for your presence tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get to talk to you all. So we're going to focus on the Screenwriting Lab tonight. And let me give you just a quick overview of what we do in the program. So the Screenwriting Lab is a 2-week intensive where we take 6 projects, and they each have a creative advisor. And this person is an established writer or writer-director in the American independent and studio space. And what you would be doing with your creative advisor is they're going to be leading a session where the first hour of that session is a conversation. How did you get to where you are? So not just you, but the other fellows in the program are getting to know your advisor. And then we would dive in specifically to your project. You would have to pitch your advisor. We have all of our fellows workshop what we call the extended elevator pitch, the pitch that you would give if someone asked you at a party. What are you working on? And the idea behind this is for you to be able to, off the cuff, concisely speak about yourself and your project. So that's how we start the conversation. We give you feedback, and then we dive in. Everyone in the lab reads all of the projects. So you're getting feedback, not just from your creative advisor, but from all of the fellows in the program. And the advisors, we've had incredible advisors. Like last year, we had Andrew On, Robin Swycord, Javier Fuentes Leon. We've had Pamela Ribbon, like high-level folks that have won Spirit Awards, have been nominated for Academy Awards, that have made big studio films, and also small-scale independent projects. And something that's important for us is it's always very tailored to who is in the lab. You know, we try to do a little bit of matchmaking, so your creative advisor is going to be somebody that makes sense for your specific project. So that's one component of the lab. In addition to the creative advisor sessions, we have guest speaker sessions where we're going to have writers come in and do case studies on their project. This past year, we had Eliza, I keep saying this past year, but it was this past spring. We had Eliza Hittman come in and speak about Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. And we had Katie Davila come in and speak about her process writing the feature of Emergency, which is the feature version of a short that was incubated in another one of our programs that we're very proud of. It's on Amazon Prime. I hope it's in Amazon Prime in Brazil too. Check it out if you haven't seen it. We also have a series of sessions with a consultant where basically we're going to crack open your project and we want you to take a look at it from a different perspective, perhaps a different character, or going back to the initial inception of your project. Like, why are you writing this? You know, what is your goal? Like, and how can you stay focused on that through the process and through every iteration of your script? In addition to that, we also have a professional screenwriter come in and basically just talk about the business of screenwriting and what it looks like to be a professional screenwriter in today's landscape. And that's constantly shifting, constantly evolving. And it means working many different jobs often at the same time, both in the fiction, nonfiction, and episodic spaces. And this is like how you balance that and what that work looks like and how you work with your managers and agents. We also have a manager to come in to talk about your career. And this is a place for you to step back and think long-term. What do you want to do? Like, what's the big goal and how do I get there? So that one's not about your specific project, but about your career as a screenwriter and as a writer-director. This is independent film, so like the majority of the projects that we support are with writer-directors, and of course, we're always like considering that when we're putting together the labs. And then we end with a retreat. So you have been chatting with writers this whole time. Writers have been reading your work. You've been getting feedback from their perspective, and now it's time to get the industry's perspective. So this is where we bring in development and production executives to come in, read your scripts, and give you notes. We call it a retreat, though. It's just the closing event. And this is going to be happening. And actually, let me kick it over to Ashley so she can give you an overview of the timeline. And then I can dive in a little bit more into the application, what we're looking for, the right stage of your project. But Ashley, let us know when this all happens.
Thank you, Dea. And before Ashley kicks in, I just want to let everyone know that they can ask questions using the chat or asking the questions by speaking or opening up their camera. And if anybody has a question and wants to ask it in Portuguese, doesn't feel comfortable in English, we can translate it. So, questions will be answered right after this initial presentation from Dea and Ashley.
Thank you, Dea. Oh, one second. Try now. All right. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Okay. Just briefly going over the timeline, and then I'll pass it back over to Dea to talk over applications. We are currently open. We're accepting applications for the Screenwriting Lab. We have 2 deadlines coming up. So August 28th is the general deadline. There is an application fee of $65. However, if you'd like to benefit from the extended timeline, you can have a September 11th extended deadline if you join as a member of Film Independent, and the application fee would be $45 for that. And then we'll start a review process into the fall, through the fall into early spring. March is about the time that we would start our interview process. And then, as Dea mentioned, April would be our 2-week intensive. So that's sort of like broad strokes timeline.
All right, sorry, it just takes a sec because I have to mute and unmute since we are sitting next to each other. So to give you an overview of like, what are we looking for as far as in your application and what stage is the right stage to be applying to a program like this. So I would say as far as stages, you shouldn't be submitting your first draft or even your second draft. This is really more along the lines of, I've gotten this project as far as I can get it. but I know that there is another level that I can achieve with it. I just need fresh eyes. I need to ingest some fresh energy into my project. Like that is the right stage to not just do our lab, but I would say any writing lab. This is about because what's going to happen in the lab is we're going to take your project apart and put it back together. And you're also going to get notes from a lot of different perspectives. And so that's why it's very important for us when you're in the lab to be very committed, because you're going to be reading everybody's projects and participating in feedback conversations and also giving written feedback to your fellows. And so what's wonderful about this and coming into this space from Brazil is you're going to get our take on your project, essentially. You would be getting the American independent film perspective on not just your project, but how projects are put together here, what the landscape is like here. And I also want to say that we take projects from all over the world, and we have supported projects from Central and South America before, and we actually had a Peruvian project that participated in our lab this past spring. And the way that works is that we would be working with a translation of your script. So you would be submitting an English translation of your project. However, of course, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you are working with the right person that understands not just your project, but your perspective as a filmmaker. Now, onto that, that's why it's really important to take your time with the application, because we are not just trying to get to know your project, we're trying to get to know you and your intention for your project. And what is, especially if you are a writer director, we want to know what your vision is for this film. Where do you see it going? What stylistically can you add in the application that we're not going to see in your deck, in your sample, in your script? What are your goals for it? And then the cover letter is about you. It's about who you are as an artist and why, and this is the big one, why do you want to do this lab? And what do you hope to get out of it? And how does our lab, specifically the Film Independent Screenwriting Lab, stand out to you as apart from all of the other development programs that you can do? What can we do for you that no one else hopefully can do for you? So those are the two separate things to focus on in the artistic statement and in the cover letter. So that's what we're looking for. Artistic statement is about your vision. It's about your film, and the cover letter is about you, what your goals are, and also what your overall goals are for your career. How can we help you? Because what we love to tell people is if you participate in our labs, you're part of the family, and we're going to do everything that we can to push your career forward. And we want to continue to be your advocates and resources for you and help you in whatever way we can. We have a number of development programs in addition to the Screenwriting Lab, and we absolutely support people at different stages of their careers and in different programs. In addition, for fiction, films in development, we have this lab, we have the producing lab, and we have Fast Track, which is a market for films. That's when you're ready to go out to investors. That's when you're ready to start pitching to financiers. And again, we also support international projects in that program across all of our programs. So we want to help you in any way that we can. So it's important for us to get to know you in the application. And is this person also, this is another big one for me, especially, is when you're coming into a program like this, coming into it with the right frame of mind, and that's openness to the process, and also collaboration and connection, because we're going to introduce you to amazing advisors, and the guest speakers are going to be top notch. It's really about the connection that you make with the other filmmakers in your program. These are the people that will become, we hope, good friends of yours, but also people that you're going to be working and rising through film with. And these are going to be people that will be your sounding boards that you can always reach out to with questions and for support and for notes, because they've already read your script. they're invested. And so what often happens, especially in our writing labs, is that they become writing groups where like they're meeting maybe once a month, maybe every other month, sharing their work and getting feedback from each other. And that's something that's really important to us because, you know, it's a tough business. And the more connections you have, the better it can be. But instead of looking at it as like networking or connections, it's about like forming real friendships with these people, people that are working in the similar spaces as yourselves, that have similar creative goals and can really support you on your journey. So it's kind of like, I feel like a good overview. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Yeah, thank you so much for this initial explanation on the lab. And again, congrats on the initiative. It's beautiful and great to also hear about the way you support the filmmakers throughout their careers and not just, you know, support their project, but really them as professionals and artists. So that's great. I don't know if someone has a question already. I guess maybe while oh yes, we do. Okay, so I was gonna fill in, but I don't have to. So someone rose his hand. Felipe? Oh, did I get that? No, Anna. Anna and Felipe, both. Okay, well, I'll start with Anna because she's right here on my screen, and then Felipe.
Hi guys. Can you hear me or is the AC too
Yes.
loud?
I can
Okay.
hear you.
I wanted to know if there is like a genre that is not expected to, you know, to submit.
Not at all. We support all types of films. We've supported horror films. I mean, I don't think we've supported an action film, but I would definitely be open to it. But we're genre agnostic. It's really about like, what are you trying to say with your project? You know, what are your artistic intentions with it? I think like we're all fans of genre here. It's just about the intent, like the underlying artistic intentions of the project itself. But happy to support comedy, drama, horror. I'm sure there are a few that I'm not thinking of, but also it doesn't have to be linear, you know, like, yeah, like very, very open.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna. Felipe, and then we have a question from the chat from Rodrigo.
Yes, hi, Dea. Nice to meet you. I have just a quick question. With the scope that Project Independent has in LA, how does that work in terms of submitting the script during a WGA strike? Does that cause any problems? Because I know if we submit anything to producers or anything like that, we can get blacklisted from WGA later on. So yeah, how does that work?
So, well, currently, like, we don't see it impacting our application period, but what we are like monitoring closely is this is not a law that would happen during the strike. We are very hopeful that by the spring, we will be okay. But there are also, of course, scenarios where we would be pushing. So like constantly under advisement, these are conversations that are happening at Film Independent. And if anything were to change, we would absolutely like notify the applicants, but we're currently accepting applications with the knowledge that our writing labs are not happening during the strike and with the hope that this will be resolved by the spring.
And I'm so sorry, but just to follow up, I know that actually just submitting the script or sending the script around can also be an issue with WGA. Although I know Project Independent is not a production company itself. But
yeah, we're not. We're not a production company, and this is also not a program that is backed by studios specifically. Which seems to be, you know, a safe carve out. But again, like I said, this is like the information that we're currently working with, and if any of this were to change, we would, you know, notify you as an applicant. But one thing that, because we have a pitching element and because we do have industry that participate in the program itself, we would more than likely push the program, and this is something that we did with our directors intensive, like even though it was about directing and not about writing at all, we lifted the industry portion of it out so that there would not be filmmakers talking to industry or pitching to industry in any capacity. And like, I really hope this is over by next spring. But if it's not, these are things that we would also like consider and revisit. Whether we can just do a version of this lab with absolutely no industry and just have it be filmmaker to filmmaker, which is what we did with our episodic director.
Thanks, Dea. Good luck. I really hope it is over also for everybody's sake. We have a question in the chat from Rodrigo. He's asking, and I'm interested in knowing about this. Do you accept screenwriters who are not directors, or are you more geared towards screenwriter directors? And he's saying usually labs tend to prefer screenwriters that are also directors, and he seems to be a screenwriter only, and he's interested in knowing if that could hinder his application.
We actually love supporting writers that are pure writers, because the independent space does generally gear towards writer directors. That tends to be a good portion of our lab, but we're always looking to support folks that are writers. In all of our labs, we focus on the career path of that specific lab. So in the screenwriting lab, like, of course we have directors in there, but we're talking about what it's like to be a screenwriter in today's landscape. And what it means for, like professionally, like what does it mean to be a screenwriter? We talk about what it means to be a writer director too, but this is the screenwriting lab. So the focus is writing. And we are always very happy to support pure screenwriters, though I don't believe we had any in our past lab. But we are 100% open to it, and it would not hinder your chances at all.
Sure, someone's happy with that answer. So another question by Graziella is, can you apply as an individual, or do you have to have a company?
Oh, you can absolutely apply as an individual. This is a lab where we would be taking things at the earliest stage. So you actually don't need to have any attachments. Like, it's great if you do, and we want to know who they are, but you do not have to. And I would say, like, looking at the life of a film, this program is where we're going to take things at the earliest, like early development stage. Producing lab would be like somewhere in the middle, like you have your team is together, you have a producer and a director attached. And then fast track is late development, where the script is ready to go. And if you were to take a meeting, and of course, fast track is also something that would not necessarily happen during the strike. We're also looking at that timeline as well. You're ready to send it to companies, to financiers immediately after the fast track sessions.
Okay, good. That's a great explanation. We have a question from David, but Murat, but you did answer it. So he's asking if the scripts do necessarily have to be submitted in English, and I would say yes. And you mentioned that they would have to be translated. Yes. So we covered that. Yeah. Okay.
And it's also something that at the application stage, we would need this translation as well, because we would need to evaluate it in English. Okay. Understanding that it's a translation.
Okay, good. Okay, that's clear. Dale Cardozo has raised his hand. Please, Dale. You're on mute, Dale. Dale, está no mudo.
Okay. Hi, Dea.
Hello.
Hi, Ashley. I do have a question. Is there some type of regional quota for, let's say, South American projects?
We don't have quotas in general in this specific program, but it's something that is very important to us. All types of diversity, like regional diversity, ethnic diversity, geographical diversity. It's very, very important to us to be representing, supporting folks from a wide range of places and ethnicities. And so it's important to us, but no quotas.
Thank you very much.
And can I jump in on his question? It was actually the question I was going to ask initially. What's your balance between films from the US, projects from the US and projects from abroad, and how does Latin America usually fare, and maybe Brazil? Like, what are the chances? What's the track record, and what are the chances?
So I would say that we typically will have 1 to maybe 1 or 2 international projects in each of our labs. The international projects that we have supported, we have some wonderful success stories like Manosucias out of Colombia and Joyland out of Pakistan. Joyland did our producing lab and fast track program. And I mean, I would say that, you know, these are, and also we supported not in the specifically in the screenwriting lab, but Alex Morato's early projects went through the directing lab and I believe fast track. So it's something that we're not just open to, but that we actively do. And we've supported, like I mentioned, a Peruvian project earlier this year, and that was a project that was shot in Peru, had a Peruvian creative advisor as well, and was in Spanish, and we worked with a translation. It's something that we're very comfortable doing. We also supported 37 Seconds out of Japan, and that went through almost all of our labs, and that I believe premiered at Berlin in 2021, I want to say, and that director went on to be one of the main directors of the Netflix series Beef that had a lot of Emmy nominations earlier this summer. So like we support international filmmakers all the time, and they go on, the projects that they do go on to have wonderful lives, and they go on to have wonderful careers in both in world cinema and specifically in the American independent and studio spaces.
Okay, good. Anna did raise her hand. Is it the same question as in the chat, Anna?
No, it isn't.
Okay, go ahead, but then I'll go back to the chat.
Okay,
You can
sorry.
ask both then.
Okay, I was wondering if a co-producing, you know, I get so nervous. If a co-production between 2 countries is necessary for later on producing the script, is it a no-no for, you know, applying to?
Not at all. No, I mean, also like we don't take like a financial stake in your project. We don't ask for a percentage, like anything along those lines. We, especially the international projects, tend to have co-productions with them, but that's on a project by project basis, and something that we would develop more specifically in the producing lab than the screenwriting lab, because in the screenwriting lab we're going to focus on the script, and the producing lab is a space where we would be talking about your production plan and how you're putting the financing together.
Amazing. And the other thing that she asked me to ask right now is someone said something about the you know, sending you a script in Portuguese and English, but I'm writing it only in English. Is that okay?
Of course. Yes.
Right. But to complement on your your previous question, somebody, Lautaro asked, does the project need to have secure funding at all?
No.
I get no. Okay.
Just not.
Blah, blah, blah. There was one more. Can the project have a co-writer?
Yes, but you would both be participating in the program.
Both would have to attend.
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's not the case where you have to choose.
No, we would want to support both people.
Okay. And again, Rodrigo de Vasconcelos. In the case where I am not the director of the film, it's the same person who asked about the pure screenwriter. Can I add the work sample from the director that that will be directing the film in the application, or do I leave it blank?
If you have a director attached, we would like to see their sample, because it's about seeing, again, like the artistic intention for the feature, and just like clarify, like, I am not directing, but I have a director attached and here is their sample. And this just helps us give us a better sense of like the artistic vision and intentions for the film.
Okay, good, thanks. Lila Rodriguez, do you accept producer or executive producer application? We have a first draft from a writer, and probably we will add another screenwriter to the project in the future, but we want to work on the development, and through the producer, and though the creative producer would be a good fit for this lab, what do you think? And would the producer be a good fit for this lab? What do you think?
So no, because we have a producing lab. And so that's what you should take a look at the producing lab, which happens I'm going to Yeah, I do not know when the application period opens for the producing lab, but that happens in October of each year. The application cycle for this year has closed and we're currently in selections for that program. But it's like a quick overview. It's very similar to the Screenwriting Lab, but instead of talking about writing, we're talking about producing. And in the producing lab, we actually take projects at 2 stages. In development and also actually in post-production. So we can either work with your script or we can work with your rough cut. And the idea there is we talk about what it takes to put a project together and get it made. And then we talk about what it takes to get it out there and market it and distribute it. And so we're talking about the life of the film. So typically speaking, we have 1 or 2 projects that are in post-production and 4 to 5 projects that are in development. And in that lab, we support pure producers, so not producer directors. We are talking about folks that are looking at making creative producing. They're, we know everybody wears many hats, but creative producing is like their main career path. So I would encourage you to take a look at that specific program.
Yeah, I guess the question was more about, the creative producer, where does he fit in? And you just made that very clear. And Dale Cardozo just sent us the deadline, so thank you, Dale, helping in. And Ana do Carmo has her hand raised, and usually, I'm telling you, it won't be the only time in this chat. Go ahead, Ana.
Hi, guys. I don't have a voice, but here I am. I don't know if you said it, so if you said it, I'm sorry, but do you have a space in the application form where we can submit like a mood board or something?
Yeah, we have spaces for you to submit like a lookbook, like the deck for your project. And if you have one, we definitely want to take a look at it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, anybody else? I don't see any more questions in the chat unless I'm missing something. Oh, Ana is back. Okay, maybe we have Ana Saki taking over from Ana do Carmo in terms of how many questions can be asked in the chat by one single person. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, and you can call me Saki, so it's not too Anas. Anyways, is there like a minimum page limit?
There isn't, but like in general, I would say between 90 and 120 pages, or approximately.
Good. I think I have something in my chat. Hold on. IP. Hold on. So someone is asking here. Okay, yeah, so it's about our fellowship. I'm sorry. So yeah, our fellowship is only for Brazilians who are active in the Brazilian market. So you can actually be living outside of Brazil, but you would have to be working in or for Brazil.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Was that clear?
Yeah, no, 100%. I just
Okay.
wanted to know about, where we live. Absolutely. Thank you.
And I was right. Anna has her hand raised again. Go ahead, Anna.
You're always right, Josephine. So Anna's question was perfect because I have a script that I would like to submit a lot, but it's like 75 pages. So if I do, would I like 100% not be selected? It has to be 92 pages.
No, it doesn't have to be. That's a rough estimate. And it also depends on the type of film that you're making. You know, something that is a little bit more esoteric is often going to have a shorter script. If it's going to be more about visuals and dialogue, for example. So it's just, those are just very rough estimates given like that it's typically a minute per page, 90 to 120, but it can absolutely be shorter. And we've supported projects that are shorter than that. But if it was like 30, then I would be worried.
No, it's not 30, it's 75.
Yeah, that should be fine.
You can go ahead with that. Guilherme needs to know. Sorry, go ahead. No? Oh. Guilherme wants to know if he can submit as previous work a short film, or does it have to be a feature film?
Is this for your, if it's for your directing sample, it can definitely be a short film. And they often are short films.
Written work.
Oh, well, for the lab, I mean, you would be submitting the screenplay that you'd be workshopping in the program. So it would need to be a feature screenplay. It's not exactly a shorts lab, and it's also over 9 months, and you would have to be in Los Angeles, but we do have a program for short filmmakers called Project Involve. And in that program, you can apply with shorter work. But again, that's more of like a 9-month residency in LA. And you don't actually work on what you submit in that program. You are developing a project with the other fellows in the program. Something to take a look at, but again, that's also for folks that are based in Southern California.
I guess he's asking about previous written work. So can the previous written work be a short film?
Previous written work?
Yeah.
That's
ask for that. Well, I guess maybe if he's not a director and he's only a screenwriter, in terms of
we don't need a work sample if it's not if you're not the director, that's fine. Like the only written sample we need in the screenwriting lab is the script itself that you'd be workshopping in the program.
Okay.
The previous sample is for directors, and that would be it should be a short, like typically speaking, it's a shorter feature. It should be a fiction piece. It can also be scenes, like we're not very specific about that, but something that is solely directed by your director, because we want to get a sense of that specific person's work or your work as a writer director. So for example, we don't want to see something that's been co-directed unless you're planning on co-directing this piece.
Okay, good. I see Ashley is doing wonders in the chat, and she's answering all the questions about the deadlines and the benefits from being a member. So I don't think we have any other remaining question in the chat about the lab. I don't know if someone wants to ask a question live. Otherwise, maybe we have covered everything. I don't know. Anybody? Felipe, you're raising your hand. Okay,
last one. Yeah, last one, promise. Tia, quick question. I know Project Paradiso has some stipulations in terms of where the writer is in their career, but for you guys, does it change? Do you have like, oh, you need to have written a feature for someone else or produced feature, or if you have done like directed more things, what you guys are looking for in terms of that, in terms of place and career?
Yeah, we're not looking for anything very specific. This is where it becomes very person by person. Typically speaking, we are supporting early to mid-career filmmakers. It's often we're working on their first or second film, but that is by no means a guideline. We are open, and you do not have to have previously produced work to participate in the lab. But we're also happy to take folks that do have a few films under their belt, or perhaps they've been staffed in a writing room or have worked in a different professional capacity in entertainment. This is when the whole like, what are you hoping to gain from, and like, what is your attitude coming into the lab is very important, because we're just looking for people that are really open to the process. Don't see this as a stamp of approval that they're going to get and then they're going to walk away and not participate. That's not what we're looking for. We're people that are going to really engage and make it a fruitful experience for everybody.
And just as a quick correction, we do not, okay, we have a question, but we do not have restrictions on who we support. We support everybody from emerging filmmakers, except it has to be fiction feature. We do not support shorts, but we do support emerging filmmakers and filmmakers who are in their third, fourth, fifth film. So it really depends on the opportunity and the scholarship, but we do not have restrictions really. Paula Constante.
Hi there. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Thank you for this opportunity. And I'm very new to this career. I used to be an architect, and I'm exchanging everything. But I've had a lot of experience in documentaries, and now I'm changing for a screenwriter, and I'm writing a few things. So what I would like to ask is that I have a 5 years old daughter, and that's a thing to me because this disposition of time, I could be there in 2 weeks, but it's just a question of is it really important to have this I don't know, to be available for I don't know, to be in the United States whenever you call after everything. It's just a curiosity, and it's a long shot, but it's something that I was I don't know, got me.
Yeah, so as far as like your availability during the program, we do ask that you be available during, and this, you know, it changes slightly, and especially like, you know, we're hoping to be doing these labs in person, would change if we were in person, ask you to set aside the hours of 9 to 4 or 5 p.m. and we would book you pretty solid. We only have 2 weeks with you, and we're going to pack in as many sessions as possible, and also time for you to connect with the other fellows. All that being said, of course, you know, we're going to work with you and try to be as flexible as we can. However, during the lab itself, it is hard for us to be very flexible because we book these folks in, and there are some sessions. I mean, the whole lab is mandatory, but like if there's places here and there where you may need us to be slightly flexible, that's something that we can, you know, work with you on.
Good to know. We have 2 great questions in the chat. Kaisa is asking, what are the do's and the don'ts when submitting your work? And Ana do Carmo is asking, do you provide any awards during the program?
So do's and don'ts for submitting your work, I would say, like, just, you know, read everything very thoroughly before you submit it. Some of the mistakes that people make is they address other nonprofit organizations in their cover letters to us. So we'll get letters that say like, Dear Tribeca or Dear Sundance. And oh, yes. And we're very aware that you're submitting to different programs, but just, you know, take a second to make sure that you're submitting something specific to, and again, this goes for everything, for the organizations that that you are submitting to. Another thing is during the process, and I am sure you are all lovely, and this doesn't apply to you, but making sure to be kind in all of your interactions that you may have with us or our staff, or even like what looks like a general email. There's a person that I work with on the other side of it. So I have been forwarded some really interesting messages before. So just, you know, be kind, be patient, be respectful. And also I would say, give your project a pass, just for like, you know, grammar and like little spelling mistakes. Everyone submits stuff with a little bit of like a few mistakes, and we completely understand that. But if you have a mistake on every page, that's going to ding you. And this really comes into play more when you're applying with something that's in earlier drafts, because you're still working it out yourself and you haven't gone through and done that pass yet. So I would say, like, always do that pass. And then, you know, like, just like be yourself, be authentic in the application, because it's really your first introduction to us as a filmmaker and as a person, and we want to get to know you.
Good. About the awards, is there any during the program?
So the Screenwriting Lab specifically, I believe we have the Kate and Goldrick Family Foundation Fellowship, and that is $10,000 grant for filmmakers that identify as Jewish. And we also have a $10,000 grant with MPAC, the Hollywood Bureau Writing Fellowship. And that is for fellows who identify as well as American Muslims. So if you happen to be Brazilian and an American Muslim, you can apply that specific one. And those are the 2 that we have at the moment. Something to mention, while it's not in a specific program, is the Sloan Foundation. If you have any interest in science at all, the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation has a number of grants for not just films, but episodic content that either feature a scientist or or is about science. And we have 4 grants with the Sloan Foundation and the Episodic Lab, the Producing Lab Fast Track, and we also have a distribution grant where we would be supporting distribution of your film. And I highly encourage you to check out their website because we are not the only ones. Many nonprofit organizations in the United States have ties to the Sloan Foundation, and there's a lot of money on the table if you have any interest in writing about science.
Great, and Ashley did compliment what you just said with a link on the chat. Anna has a question, but Luis asked a question in the chat before. Hi, I optioned the rights to a novel and I have the rights for a total of 4 years. Will I need a developed first full draft to apply?
Yes, we do need your full first draft to support you in the program because we're supporting like specifically the screenplay.
Okay, great. Anna?
My question is, you said that you have a producing lab. So if we apply for the screenwriting program, is it okay to also apply for the production one when it's open? And if yes, do you have like a early bird thing, like when it's going to be open or something?
So you can absolutely apply to both, and we often support projects at different stages. So one of the projects that was in the Screenwriting Lab this year was in Fast Track last year. That happens all the time. As far as when is the deadline for the Producing Lab, I do not know. Spring, we typically open around March.
You close around May.
And we will make sure that you have these dates. We haven't set them for next year though. We will post them on the website once they have been set for 2024.
Sorry, Paula again. In Dale, so both. I mean, not both, but Paula first and then Dale.
Okay, thank you. So my question before was I am available for this 2 weeks. It was just thinking in this more broad thinking of if that is an imperative to be a mom of a child. That's the first, but it's just one. And about copywriting, I don't know. It's something with the lab. How does it work? Thank you.
So I would say no, it's not. I know a lot of filmmakers that have children, that have small children. I mean, it's difficult because, and it's something that we're working on as an industry to make things a little bit more family friendly because the hours are crazy. And it's very hard, but I know producers that make sure to have like some form of daycare on their sets. And as an organization, Film Independent is very family friendly. These are all like work-life balance is something that we're starting to talk about more as an industry. But unfortunately, like the hours are grueling and it's very difficult, but you find a way to balance it as best you can.
Baby with him.
Oh yeah, we actually had a fellow who had his baby with him during basically the entire lab. She was just right here sleeping for the most part. And, when she wasn't sleeping, when she was crying, he would just turn off his camera, turn off his mic. And this lab was virtual and we would give him a break and we would always check in like, Richard, are you ready for us? Before we brought him into the conversation. So, we're going to do everything we can to make it work for our fellows. As far as copywriting, it's like, does your project need to be copyrighted? No, and that's not something that we really deal with. In general, in the labs.
No, but what I mean is this idea, I don't know, here in Brazil, we have to register that in the National Library. And I know that we have this very different laws here in Brazil and from the United States because the copywriting is just all for the producers. So you don't have an involvement into it. It's just.
We do not. And you can also register your project with the WGA. It's something that is available to you, but it's not something that is required.
Okay.
And copywriting, that goes more into chain of title and like producer stuff.
Good. Dale?
Yeah, I have a question. Dea, regarding the selection process, what's the curatorial method? I heard that some people read, let's say, 5 pages, and then, especially if there's a lot of, applications on the table. I would like to know a little more about how the process is.
Yeah, so we get everything covered by a group of readers that we have vetted and that we work with very closely. So you have someone that is going to be reading your full script and is essentially going to be summarizing and giving their thoughts and comments on it to us. Then we have an internal process where we are, and by we, I mean Ashley and myself, will be reviewing the projects. As far as how much of the script do we read, it changes per script, but I would say if I don't understand what you're trying to do in your first 10 pages, like that's a problem. I should either get a sense of place, a sense of like your style, a sense of your characters in those opening pages. Like that's what I'm looking for. It's not necessarily like I read 5 pages and I'm done and I never read the script again. It's more like, okay, I want to get a sense of this person's writing, their style, what they're trying to say, the world that they're building. Like that's what I'm looking for in those opening pages. And of course, is it engaging? Like, do I want to keep reading? Because sometimes I'll look up and I've read 40 pages of your script.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, and I also want to say I've never met a Dea. I'm actually like Dea in English, but it's Dea in Spanish. I'm like, it's very nice to see your name.
Almost a namesake.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good omen. So we have another question. I'm sorry, back to the chat. You said when you will announce the selected projects.
So we like officially announce the projects once the lab has started, but we notify all applicants about 3 to 4 weeks before the lab starts. And the interview process typically happens, I'd say like 4 to 5 weeks, like 4 to 6 weeks prior to the start of the lab. And currently it is starting, and we don't have exact dates. It might be like late March or early April. So I'd say like February, March is when you're going to be hearing from us.
Okay.
Of course, with the understanding that if the strike is still happening, that will change things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And I think Rodrigo has a question, but I think he'll be frustrated with the answers. In case the lab is all in English, you don't provide translation, do you?
That's right. Yes, it's in language.
Okay, so no translation for the lab. Good. We're pretty much, it's almost been an hour, very productive and instructive hour. No more Annas with a hand raised. Oh, wait, we got a new message in the chat. Let's see. Oh, Luis Dantas. I have another screenplay written with a partner. If selected, would there be additional funds for both to go, or do we have to choose one? So I guess he's a co-writer. You just said, wait, hold on, another screenplay written with a partner. So Dea said, if you have 2 writers, both have to attend. In our case, the fellowship is 1 only. So I guess that's the answer, maybe, or you want to compliment Dea?
I would say like in that specific situation, we would find a way for your partner to attend virtually. Yeah, we'll find and it's something that we're working on, like how to make the programs hybrid. But ideally, you could both be with us if you can't, and we select you and there's two people. I do want to say like that's not going to be a part of like ours. Don't think that you're out of it because of that. We've all learned to be very creative and we'll find a way to make it work.
And also our funding is of 20,000 reais. You can try to make 2 international tickets fit into that, because once you're there, you don't have, it's all taken care of, the accommodation, I understand, for 2 people, or am I wrong?
That's something that I would have to actually check with folks internally.
Okay.
So I don't have that specific answer.
Okay, well, if that happens, if it is the case, then I'm sure we can get information correct by then, but I would say go ahead and apply, and then we'll see what we're doing to make it work. I'm sure we'll find ways to make it work. Augusto Suarez says he has a question. Do you want to ask your question live, or did you?
Yeah, I just want to, if you can finish this talk, talking about your membership. What can we get? Try to sell the membership to us. You know, please try to sell it.
So we're a membership-based organization, so we have a number of screenings and events for members that are virtual in addition to what we have in person here, here in the United States. So a couple of things that I would definitely highlight for you for being a member of Film Independent, in addition to getting 2 additional weeks to all of our artist development deadlines, you get an access to our virtual screening series, and you would be able to vote for the Spirit Awards, which also comes with screeners for the films that are nominated for the Spirit Awards. And these are the top independent films from that year. So you get like upwards of 40 films typically on that platform to screen. Maybe 40 is too many, maybe it's 30 to 40, but these are also like the films that are in contention for the Spirit Awards and often for the Oscars and for the guilds. And you have, I believe it's like a 1-month window to watch those films. In addition to getting to see American films, independent films, we also have education programming that is virtual. And we actually have one this evening about screenwriting and like how to break in as a screenwriter that is virtual. We have networking events that we host virtually, and a lot of our bigger education events like the Director's Close-Up, which is a series of conversations with the top directors from that year's award season, is also partially virtual. We also, for a lot of our bigger events, we record and then later post these events to a platform that as a member you would have access to. We have, of course, a contingency here in LA, but with the pandemic and with our programs that have become more and more international, we have a contingency that is not based in the United States. So we're always programming for everybody, for our global audience as well.
I would say that's a pretty good sell.
Thank you.
Augusto agrees. Okay. I think that we might want to, okay. Yeah, Ashley is always, kicking in with the right links in the chat. So great. I think we could maybe wrap this up. I think we heard a lot from you, Dea, and also from Ashley. Great questions. Thank you, everybody. Unless anybody wants to say something, ask the last question, I think we can pretty much thank Dea and Ashley for their participation and their time and their generous explanations. I really, really hope we have to remain fingers crossed to see hopefully a Brazilian artist selected this year, next year, who knows, but some time in the future. Yeah, I guess good luck to everybody in the application. I understand Dea just sent her email. Did you just
So
do that?
is the email too. If you have any additional questions, like please feel free to reach out. We are happy to, answer anything. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. It was really lovely getting to see you and chat about the Screenwriting Lab.
Good. And also remember, reminding you that this chat will be available, this talk will be available on our YouTube channel. If you want to, if you have any doubts about what was said, or if you want to share it with somebody in your environment. So again, thank you very much. Good luck with all the selection process and for the applicants and for the selectioners. Hopefully we'll hear more from you in the near future. Good luck with everything, and thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.